thank you very much for coming out this evening to our candidate forum. My name is Mike Kelpich, and I'm the MC of tonight's event. Also, just a few housekeeping items. There will be really no audience participation other than if you'd like to submit a written question, you can do so. Papers were available up front. They're still available, and if you'd like to submit your question, you can do so. We have an intermission planned. You'll see that it'll probably be around 8 o'clock. But if you'd like to submit a written question, just make sure you get it in before that time or right at the start of intermission, and we'll screen those out. Tonight's event is also being streamed live on Facebook, and we suspect there's going to be a pretty significant audience online. So just keep that in mind. The candidates all have microphones. I'm using a microphone. None of these candidates are professional politicians. They're not public speakers by nature. So we always give people a benefit of the doubt whenever they're standing up in front of others and speaking. It's not an easy task, definitely not. However, I do want to personally thank all of these candidates who have come out tonight. Mr. Bill Henwood is also on the ballot but was unable to be with us this evening. That's why he is absent. But I want to just start off by extending a round of applause to all of those who have shown up tonight. The format is a Q&A format. You'll ultimately take a look at your program, and you'll see the first two questions are printed in there. The candidates have had those, so they've had some time to think about what they'd like to say. We're ultimately going to get started off here in just a second with the candidates giving a 2-minute introduction, just a little bit of information about themselves. You'll see Mrs. Skibo sitting up front with the computer. That computer actually has a timer on it, so that the candidates are aware of how much time they have. It's a countdown. Candidates, do you have any questions for me before we begin? Okay, then we're ultimately going to begin. And I will just turn it right down the row. We're going to start off with Mr. Angermeyer, if he wants to give 2 minutes, a brief introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Angermeyer, born and raised in Mercer, PA, so just down the road here. Graduated Mercer High School in 2008. Went on to Slippery Rock University after that. So high school, I was a 3-sport athlete, probably arguably put athletics before education. That lesson was quickly taught to me in college whenever my athletic career did not work out. So that was the first time that I really heard the lesson of you're a student first and an athlete second. So part of that is what led me here today. But after college, I began my work career. I am a global product manager for Wabtec Corporation, formerly GE Transportation. So I hope that my business acumen could lend some skill set here in this arena. But most importantly, I just thought it would be good to put a vested interest in my children's education. I have a daughter, Brelyn, 9, who is here in 3rd grade, and my son, Roman, is 3, so no longer, not in the district yet, but obviously we, with all intents and purposes of staying here for the long term. So really I wanted to get involved for their sake. And really just broaden the involvement of the community and the board and just bridge that gap that sometimes could be there, whether or not it's on purpose or not, it doesn't matter. Just think that it's best for all of us to just come together as a community and really just put the kids first. So that's why I'm here. And nice to meet everybody, and hopefully we have a good night.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barnes.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Barnes. Originally a Greenville native, but many years ago, we had the opportunity to move to the Valley and did some homework and chose Sharpsville as a smaller school, which was strong at the time and remains strong, I believe. So I've been on the board 5 years now. My motivation for joining the board back then is really the same as it is now, wanting to stay on the board. Just gratitude for the education that my 3 children received. They've done well. I have no kids in the district at the moment, but they've done well in their careers and in higher education thanks to the foundations that were laid here. And so I think it's important we continue that for generations to come. So certainly, as I was considering ways to give back to my community 5 years ago, it occurred to me that the lessons that I had honed over 20 years at that point of running 2 hospital pharmacies for UPMC could be translated well into the educational arena. And I believe that's the case. Education is much like healthcare. There are some minor differences. We turn out a product every 12 months here, and we have 13 years to do it, so we have to get it right, essentially. So that's, I believe that, we've met the challenges and the successes over the last 5 years. One of our big successes, you're all sitting in tonight, and having spent many hours here over many years, the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I think we should be proud of this, and the community should be proud of it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Ferguson.
Good evening. I wanted to thank the Sharpsville Area Education Association for hosting this forum. I am born and raised. My parents were Sharpsville graduates. My husband's a graduate of Sharpsville. My 3 children attended Sharpsville, and I have a grandson right now that's in 2nd grade and another one that is too little but still in the district. As Mr. Engermeyer had said, I was also an athlete here at Sharpsville, and I think I put my athletics ahead of my education at that time, and then realized how important the education process was. And Sharpsville does have a wonderful background for education and getting our community and our students primed and ready for the real world. I am the faith formation coordinator of St. Bartholomew Church. I'm also the volunteer coordinator of Sharpsville Community Food Pantry. Community in Sharpsville is enormous. We have a very small town, very small community, and Sharpsville always comes together, especially when there is great need. And we have what I see as a huge opportunity here in the district. We have 9 very qualified candidates to fill the seat on the board. We have quality administrators, and we have an opportunity that I have not seen here in the district in a very long time for the board and the administration to work together. And I am looking forward to serving the community, our students, and our staff.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garcia. It goes up. Up will be on. There you go.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the SAEA too. You guys that are here volunteering, I appreciate you coming and doing this and giving the community a chance to hear all of us say what we got to say and kind of get a feel for who we are. I myself, we moved here when I was 5, so I'm not a true blue blood, but over the last 45 years, this community has given me everything. And now at my age and my station in life and where I've gotten to through my life's experience, it's time for me to give back, and I would like to do that. As far as my qualifications, I would say self-employed since I was 18, 19 years old, highly experienced in construction and building and housing and things like that. But my greatest, I think, testimony would come from the people that I've worked with for the 3.5 years that I spent here at the school. I can say anything I want to about myself, but there's 3 buildings full of teachers, staff, and leaders who can tell you what my character is, what my work ethic is, and answer any questions you have about what I may be or may not be capable of. I myself, I don't know. I just want to give back to the community. And like everybody else, it's about the kids. It's not about me. I don't think anybody up here would say for a second that it's about winning. It's about the kids. And everybody has their own ideas, their own way of doing things. And the more we mix that up and have this intermingling of ideas, the better off our kids will be. So that's what I'm about. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Reiki.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. It's so nice to see you all here tonight. My name is Janice Reiki. In case you don't know me, I've lived in Sharpsville for 38 years. I've been married to my husband, Jim, for almost 43 years, and we have a daughter, Jamie, who graduated from Sharpsville. It has been my privilege to serve you on the board for the past 12 years. When I first got elected to the board, I wanted to give back to the community, and I did it with absolutely no personal agenda. There was no reason for me to be on the board. My daughter had already graduated from high school. I didn't do it to get my family a job or to make sure that my family kept their jobs. I just really am totally transparent. My goal is to give our students the best, well-rounded, and quality education we can with the funds we have available. I want to produce well-rounded and responsible citizens that can go out into the world and be successful and can contribute to society. I worked in the Sharon City School District for 30 years as the secretary and assistant athletic director. I have been retired since 2014, and I currently sub in 2 local school districts. I feel that that experience gives me a lot of knowledge and the wants and needs of local public education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Simcoe.
Hello, everyone. Again, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. It's really nice to put something like this together, especially for somebody like me who you may not be familiar with. I was not born and raised in Sharpsville. I'm a 2002 graduate of Sharon High School. I grew up in Sharon since my family relocated from Michigan in 1988. Once I got married, my wife and I decided to start a family. We decided where we might want to raise our kids and send them to school, and we chose the district of Sharpsville. We did that because of the close-knit community that we understood and that I've come to understand from relationships that I build with people inside the community. And it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited about my kids coming through this school district. I feel like it's the best school district in the area, and I could have moved anywhere, and we chose to move here. I work in Youngstown, so it's not like it's a close drive for me. I could have moved somewhere over there. We chose here. And why I'm here today and what led me here is because, like so many others, number one, I feel like I need to give back to my community. And number two, I do have 2 children. One's in kindergarten now, and one is coming right behind him. And I want to try to make this a better place for not only my children, but everybody's children and all the children who come through this district. And what I think I can offer, currently I'm employed as a incident and problem manager in the technology field for a company that processes pharmacy claims. And involved with that is having a lot of hard conversations about what we need to do to make things better and what changes we need to make to get on the right path. And I think that my experience with that and my passion for my community and for children makes me a good candidate for this role.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Smith.
Hi, good evening. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for everyone who put this together. And I see so many staff here, so I want to say thank you to staff, current school board members. You guys had a rough year. Thank you for fighting for our kids during COVID. That was very important as a mom, so I want to say thank you. My name is Tabitha Smith. I have 5 children. My 2 oldest graduated from Sharpsville. One is going to be a senior in college in a week. Finals are almost over. I have a son that I'm very proud to say is serving in the military. Very proud of him. I have a junior here. I also have one in 3rd grade and one in 1st grade. And I'm actually a certified teacher. I have taught in large districts, small districts. I met my husband. We lived in San Diego, which is where I spent most of my time teaching. I did a little bit here. Most of it was in San Diego. I also had the opportunity to teach overseas, working with ESL children. That was a wonderful opportunity. But when we started having kids, I know what it's like to be in a big school district. I know what it's like to have your child be a number and not a name. That's when I talked to my husband and moving back from San Diego here where he's never been. And that's why we're unique. A lot of you have been born and raised here, where we chose to bring our family here. And it was the best decision that we made. I, being a teacher, went to different districts, I talked, I called, and I can tell you from day one of calling Sharpsville, from the secretary to teachers we met and we took a tour, when I came back, they still remembered my kids' names for the second time when we came back for a second tour. So, and also I am also the assistant cross-country coach here. My kids range from being in the gifted program all the way down to one that struggles. So I feel like as a teacher, I hope to bring balance. I know what it's like to be a teacher, staring at 28 kids and trying to meet their needs and needing the resources to help everyone. But I also know what it's like to be the mom of the kid where I'm like, I need help, and I also need to help my child who's gifted. So I understand the teachers and I understand the mom, but also I just love these kids.
Mrs. Smith, I'm going to have to cut you off. That's okay. It's giving you a little extra time, but thank you very much.
Well, we know her skill coming in.
Mr. Lindsay.
Well, I'm Michael Lindsay. This is my first term on the board, and if I were to introduce myself, I think the best way I could do that is 3 rows in, first, fourth, and sixth seat right there. That's who you're gonna get. That's how you're gonna get to know me. My daughter Reese, my son Micaiah, and my wife Rebecca. That's how you're gonna get to know me. I graduated from Sharon in '98, so I'm a little older than you. I served in the Army. I have a degree from BC3 and from Edinburgh, and I currently work for the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. I mean, but really those 3 there sum me up. We teach effort, we teach giving back to the community. Micaiah's gifted. Reese is a great effort student. And then there's my wife, yeah. But, so anyways, no, just kidding. But really wanted to give out some shout outs. I'm a volunteer middle school track and field coach. Middle school had their first match today, they did great. I wanted to thank Joe Toth, Jerry Trontel, Darla Grandy for coming. They're on the board currently. And I want to kind of chime in on what Tabitha said. Thank you guys for everything we've gone through and tried to balance with. To the incumbent members of the board that are up here today, thank you for what you guys have done with and being out here. And for you new ones that are up here with us, I just appreciate you guys coming out. And whether it's challenging or joining, just being part of all this is what we always need every time. Whether it's fresh faces, fresh ideas, that's all you can hope for. So I just hope, if you want to know me, I'm just kind of here to just give back, to help. Been in the community 15 years, and I got a feeling it'll be 15 more very easily. So thank you.
Thank you very much to all the candidates for their opening remarks. If you notice in the program, we're now going to move on to question number 1. Question number 1 will result in a 1-minute response by the candidates. For many years as a high school history teacher here at Sharpsville, I torment my students by putting all their names on note cards, and then I draw them out in rather random fashion, so they never know who's going to be called upon at any time. Well, the candidates this evening also get a little taste of that. I have all of their names on these note cards, and really from this point forward, rather than go in alphabetical order or anything like that, we'll end up just drawing these cards out randomly. So our first question here is, what will you do to familiarize yourself with the day-to-day operations of our schools? And I'll simply take our first card here, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. Well, I suppose that I have a bit of an advantage here because this is my 5th night here in the last 2 weeks in the schools with meetings, and so I'm somewhat familiar with the day-to-day operations. I would say that in the last year, there would be nobody who disagree with me when I would say that things have changed with lightning speed, and the famous term now in our vernacular is pivot. And so things have pivoted very quickly from day to day, week to week here, and Mr. Vinoy has done a very good job of keeping the board abreast of the changes as they've been happening. And so I do have a fairly good knowledge of day-to-day operations. But those of you who have kids in a district, you'll know that they're a great source of information as well. And as I said, I don't have that at the moment, but I think you would agree as your kids get a little older, you hear a little bit less. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I hear a little bit less, but I hear it from the source anyway. So thank you.
Mr. Barnes, thank you very much. Our next is Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mike. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I already spent 3.5 years doing the day-to-day operations of the school. I don't understand some of the newer things that have happened with COVID, but I think that I've had a pretty good peek behind the curtain. Just seeing some of the things in the school that I have ideas to change, and some of the things that I love and I would never want to see changed. Further than that, I would have to say that my wife can attest to the fact that I'm a research nerd, and I love websites and would really like to see what the state of Pennsylvania has to say about us, and how to manage our district better or appropriately. So yeah, just research and knowing what I know and being willing to listen.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Angermeyer.
Well, to learn the policies and procedures, first I think we have a really good resource with the policy manual that's published on the website for the school board. So I think what's expected is pretty clear and defined by the district and the board over all the years of putting in whatever effort goes into creating that policy. So I think that's a starting point. You have a clear understanding of what the expectations are, and as far as day-to-day in the school, I mean, your best bet is the people doing it. So the educators, the administrators, focusing really on what it is that they do on a day-to-day basis and what's important for a board member to know from the people doing it, really, I think is the best way to approach it. So I think really that is just the main thing, is dealing with the people that are doing it every day and the students. They're going to help give you a better understanding of what's going on and how to improve if there's room to improve. So I think that's how I would approach it.
Thank you very much. Next, Mrs. Reiki.
Thank you. After 12 years, I would like to say that I am fairly familiar with the day-to-day operations of our schools. However, in the past 15 months, that's changed a lot. What I love, I guess, that keeps me more up to date than anything else right now is the app. I know you all have the app on your phone, I'm sure. I love it. It's perfect. And every day you get news about the district. So if there's one thing that I can say helps me every day familiarize myself with the district, it's the app. But after 12 years, I'm thinking that I pretty much can find out anything, especially the district handbook and the website are great tools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Ferguson.
A lot of the day-to-day operations, I believe, can be found in the handbook. I am blessed enough to work for in the after-school program at the elementary building through the United Way. And so in the elementary building, I kind of get to see day-to-day what's going on. I see how the policies have changed over the years. I've been involved in the district coaching and subbing in the offices, and I've seen some of those changes. I think the best way to get an idea of what your day-to-day operation looks like is to ask those that are in there day-to-day. Ask them questions. They are more than happy to tell you what's working and what's not working, and get a general consensus of, if something does need to change. All the technology is wonderful and great. Parents have to continue to keep looking at it. The information's there, they just need to read it.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Smith.
I feel like I'm very familiar. I know the day-to-day operations very well. Having 5 kids, and things have changed, and having 3 girls left in the house, I hear from every program to every dance to every sporting event, everything that's going on. But I think the main thing is our school does a great job of communication through the app, but whether it's a teacher with her own classroom agenda or building to building, they are always letting you know what's happening, what's coming. I mean, I can have things known a month in advance and a week in advance. And even like being on, if you get on school board or not being on school board, your child's not in that building. I mean, there's monthly parent meetings, like in middle school. They're always having meetings to discuss what's going on and how to plan things. It's just attending one of those meetings every now and then. Communication. Our teachers, at least my experience, they are always readily available to tell you what's going on. Administration, they will always have time to stop. There's always a way. We have a great app. We have great resources.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lenzi.
Thought I was going to get last again. But thank you. No, kind of echoing what Mrs. Reiki and Mr. Barnes said, being on the board for the last 4 years, having an 8th grader and a 4th grader, I think the best way to familiarize yourself with the school is to become involved. And that's what I talked about, like with volunteering. The day-to-day operations, most of it standing in the back of the room, Mr. Vinoy, Ms. Hauk, Mr. Grandy. Being on part of the board, I get a hold of them. When I have a question, I ask if I just want to know something, and they've done a fantastic job of communicating. And technology is great, we need it, but I enjoy the face-to-face communications, the committee meetings, the parent meetings. I just had a great conversation with Miss Not Malcolm anymore, but I'll remember that because it was that face-to-face conversation, how you doing, put a face to a name, and that's how I familiarize myself with our day-to-day operations. They are our day-to-day operations, and that's how I feel like I've familiarized myself with that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. Simcoe.
Yeah, so as life is in general, I feel like the best way to familiarize yourself with anything of this magnitude is to, number one, like Mike said, getting involved, volunteering, being of service, putting everything above yourself and being willing to listen rather than talk. I think that gets forgotten a lot. I think a lot of people have opinions, and that's great, and everybody wants to help, but I think listening and lending an ear to the administrators, the teachers, the students, the parents in the community, I think would be the best way. Because I think it's all about relationship building. You have to have relationships first before you can work together to solve anything. And I think just immersing myself in the community, currently I coach T-ball. That's been an eye-opening experience for me, and I've gotten to know so many great people, and just listening to them and listening to their ideas and what they think would be best or what they think needs fixed, and building those relationships and really nurturing those, I think is the best way to get to know everybody.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the first 1-minute question. We're going to move on to question number 2, and if you take a look at your program, question number 2 is actually in 2 parts, and it's quite a bit of material to handle in 2 minutes. So the candidates, you'll have 2 minutes for question 2, and there are 2 parts, and we'd like to see if you can try to answer both of those in that 2-minute period of time. The questions are, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the Sharpsville Area School District? And then finally, what are some of the ways to promote those strengths and improve upon those weaknesses? Now, we recognize that the candidates have a variety of experiences. Some are incumbents, others are not. But give it your best shot. Try to answer that question, and just stick to that 2 minutes. I reshuffled the cards, and we'll just start off and see what we get. So, Mrs. Smith, you're first.
All right, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the Sharpsville Area School District? Hands down, it's why I came here. I believe our main strength is our staff. I have teachers that have fought hard for my kids. They have done everything they could in helping them learn, be there for them. I will tell you, during COVID, my one daughter especially, I was listening to them online on days I was off, and that's what got my kids through the day was their teachers, and that's all they wanted was to get back to be face-to-face with their teachers. They would say sometimes I miss my kids, but it was or their friends, but it was their teachers. And just coaching And having so many kids in this district and meeting such a variety of the kids, we have some great students at Sharpsville. Our kids work hard. They're in multiple sports and they do so many activities, and they're probably the driving force of why our teachers are amazing and why we're up here, is to help them, to give them a fighting chance to do what they want to do in life. Some of the weaknesses that I see personally as a mom, I would love to see our special education stronger. I think those kids are the hardest to reach. It's hard for a teacher too when you have a giant classroom of students. I know that from experience, but I just want to say I'm very happy that the school board, and I'm sure the administration was involved too, in hiring a special education teacher. Thank you very much. That we are moving in the right direction. There have been many more programs added since my one child has started. So I think to improve that weakness there, we're definitely going in the right direction. And our strengths, like little things, we just need to say thank you to our teachers. The teacher appreciation in elementary, that should be carried over. Our teachers just want to thank you. And so do our kids. Our students need a listening ear and to know that we appreciate them too.
Thank you very much. Next, Mrs. Reiki.
Obviously, the strength of this district is the staff, the academics that we offer, and the administration. When you look around lately, you're going to see another strength, I believe, are the facilities. Our facilities are getting better each year. I know it's been a struggle. I know it's taken a while, but they are getting better. Actually, yesterday I was told that there was a report in the News and World Report that ranked high schools in Eastern Ohio and Western Pennsylvania, and Sharpsville was ranked 8th among all the schools, which I thought was phenomenal. It was just the Sharpsville High School, but it was absolutely phenomenal. I thought that was phenomenal. Weaknesses, I don't see a lot of weaknesses in the district. I see a lot of challenges. I don't know if you would consider challenges and weaknesses. Obviously, our finances, the eroding tax base, declining enrollment, a dwindling fund balance. They're weaknesses, I guess, but I consider them more challenges than weaknesses. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Garcia.
This is hard for me because, as my wife will tell you, I'm a very honest person, and I'm not afraid to speak my mind. But that's not why we're here. We're here for the kids, and our strength is our community. When I grew up in Sharpsville, and the kids that are growing up now, my kids, I'm known as Gabe's dad or Alexis's dad, and I really like that. I don't want to be known. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everything about everybody. That's what keeps us bound together. That is what is the strength of Sharpsville and Sharpsville School District. And there's been so much infighting, different factions, everybody's got their opinions, and people are making so many assumptions without all of the information that it's causing a strife within our community that's killing me. It's destroying my soul. We should love each other. We should fight like family. We should learn how to fight like family and then get over it. We have to trust that everybody involved has what's best for our district, what's best for our children in their heart. That it's not about, like I said earlier, it's not about winning. It's about the kids winning. And, I argue with my wife 90% of the time. 90% of the time I'm wrong. But we love each other intensely. It doesn't mean because we disagree that there's any mistrust in what's best for our kids or for our family. And so for our strengths and our weaknesses, it's the same thing. It's a community. It's a sense of community. It's our strength and it's also our weakness, and we need to get back to it being just a strength.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. Well, I think strengths, I don't think I have anything different to add. I won't rank these because I think they're linked seamlessly. That would be our students and our faculty or teachers. Two big ones, and our academics have to be the third one. We are very well known, as Mrs. Reiki mentioned, about the U.S. News World Report award we received this week. That's huge. If you're a parent looking to join, looking to move into a district, that can be a game changer, and so we cannot minimize that. I think ways to promote those, I think our kids do it every day. I've chaperoned many trips over the years and talked to many bus drivers, and to a person, they all were exceptionally complimentary of our kids versus some other kids they've driven within the valley here even. So, and I came to expect no less, quite honestly, from our kids, and they came through every single time. So I think they're the best ambassadors that we have, quite honestly. So let's not forget social media. Of course, we have our Facebook page, we have the app, as we've talked about, and more to come on social media. So it's a great way to promote our district and to toot our own horn a little bit. So weaknesses, yeah, I have to agree with Mrs. Reiki that there are probably more challenges than weaknesses. We're a small landlocked district, and we don't have a lot of room to grow. And we do have a declining tax base, unfortunately. So that presents a challenge every year, and no more acutely than right now in this time of the year because we're working on next year's budget. So that's certainly an issue. I believe ways around that, number one, are creative thinking. Number two, steal shamelessly from districts that have gone down our path and continue to go down our path side by side with us. If they have an idea and it works for them, perhaps it'll work for us as well. So I think we have to look at that as well. So that'd be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Mrs. Ferguson.
I think our strength is our community. Our leadership in the district is amazing. In the administrative roles in the district, 3 of our 4 administrators are Sharpsville graduates. They have seen what's happened with the district, where it needed to go, where it needs to be. I think, again, that we are in a time that great things can be done with the board and administration who has nothing other than the very best of intentions for their students. I think our staff is wonderful and phenomenal. I think some of our weaknesses is that we're not treating each other like family. We are not treating each other like a community. Our community has changed from when I grew up. Our community has a lot of people that coming in that we don't know, a lot of students that are coming in and going out, and a lot of single parents or 2-parent households that our kids are home and they might be with babysitter or grandma or grandpa watching them in the evening. And we have a community that I'm going to say probably 50% are having a very difficult time making ends meet, making it more difficult for those students, for those families. We need to make sure that we address those. I think one of our weaknesses is that we have failed to look forward. We need to look into the future, 10 or 20 years into the future. If we have a project, we need to make sure that we do the project, we do it right, we do it the first time. We need to look at our buildings and keep up with the maintenance and not a major project that needs to be done and our buildings, falling apart. I think we need to look more long-term.
Thank you very much. Mr. Simcoe.
So I'm actually glad this question came up because, as I said, I'm not born and raised here. I have a bit of an outsider's perspective. And one thing that I've always known to be true about this school district and its strength is the close-knit, strong, small-town community environment. That is absolutely an asset, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to move to this district. It's a great environment for kids. like it's a community, you know, where they can see, they know everybody, they talk to everybody, it's small. You know, while that's a great strength, it's a bit of a weakness as well. As an outsider, the things that I've observed are, you know, making it tough for maybe somebody who's new to the area to kind of crack that circle and get into the inner sanctum. That can be intimidating. I know that from experience. And I've heard some people describe the infighting. That can be intimidating as well. And it seems like there's adult goals or priorities that seem to be trumping the children's, the best interests of the children these days. And we've kind of gone away from, you know, including everybody to maybe the same people making the same decisions, and maybe those not going as well as they maybe did in the past. So I think looking at a fresh perspective and offering inclusion to maybe those that aren't from the area and come here as this is a destination school district, start to listen to some of those ideas and perspectives, and to start to put the kids and the families first rather than adults, you know, goals and interests. Like I said, my only interest here is I have children in the district. I don't have a daughter, sister, brother, cousin, aunt, or uncle who is looking for a job or might be interested in keeping a job. To me, it's all about the kids. And the more that we keep that small town community environment together, but also add inclusion into that and consider ideas from maybe different places than we did in the past, the better off that we'll all be.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Angermeyer.
So it's been a recurring theme, the strength is being the community, so I'm going to also agree with that, though. That is a very valuable strength. The value of the community and the staff is hugely important to the district. But how do we promote that? I think that the biggest thing is you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You need to rely on others. So how do we leverage that community to help lift the board up and use that expertise to really make cumulative change would be my suggestion for that. So use your strength to your advantage and really, use the people around you that are the experts in the matter. As far as weaknesses, I haven't really earned the right to speak on a lot of the weaknesses that have been brought up. I haven't been involved in the district long enough, but I would argue that the U.S. News article, while is fantastic, we're rated number 8, I think that that's also an opportunity for continuous improvement. How do we get from number 8 to number 1? And more importantly, the statistic on that report said that there was a 92% graduation rate. I'd be curious to see what the data is that goes into that. Like, 1, is that accurate? 2, how do we improve on that? And the first thing is to find out the source of the problem. What's going on that, that rate is not at 100%. So I would say that there's some room for growth there. And I would also echo Mr. Simcoe's point of inclusion. If there's division, which I know everywhere in the United States has division, we need to just overcome that as a community. So again, use your strength to your advantage and do that together. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lindsay.
All right, so I get to pull up the rear again, thanks. Strengths and weaknesses of the school district. I've heard community, I've heard staff, and our community is great, our staff is great, but I think our strength is our student base, and in that is the community, and in that is the staff. We have such wonderful students. I get to see them on almost a day-to-day basis, being involved in the community, volunteering for things, and just getting that general interaction with them. It's just a great thing to see, and I believe we've all grown up, we've all gotten to our positions, we've all been to our spots in life, and we are where we are, and now it's their turn, and to get to watch them grow and to know that we do what we can to enrich their lives, I think is what makes them the strength. So we are part of that piece that is them. If I thought there was a weakness, I would have to agree with others up here today when they say that it's challenges. A weakness can be that we just don't have the budgetary means to expand and grant the wishes that a lot of people have. I got on this board because of Micaiah. he had a need and the school couldn't meet it, and we went to the school and we fought and we fought, and then this opened up, and I said, maybe this is my opportunity to get in there and do something. And I didn't know what it would be. I just knew I had to take a chance, and I have done what I've been able to do, just interacted, maybe made some changes, good or bad, maybe made some mistakes, good or bad. And so we can be the strength and the weakness, I think. I've shown that in mistakes that I've made, but I think I've also shown some strengths in goals or things that we've achieved. So that's kind of my thought on it. Thanks, and have a good night.
Thank you very much. With that, we conclude the first half of our candidate forum this evening. We're going to take about a 7-minute break. Restrooms are located just right outside. So take about a 7-minute break, and then we'll come back and continue on. Thank you. This evening's candidate forum, this second part, ultimately we have questions from the audience. I want to also congratulate an audience member for shuffling up the cards for me, and brings back some memories perhaps from even class. With that being said, we are going to keep it pretty quick. You know, the idea is we have 3 questions that we've selected, and we'd like to give the candidates each in turn the opportunity to each answer each of the 3 questions. So we're going to hold it to just 1 minute. So we'll just give Mrs. Skibo a moment to adjust the timer. Excellent, thank you. And here we go. Here's the question. I'm going to read it aloud, then we'll call the first card. The question is, how important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? And I'll reread that. How important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? So really kind of 3 parts: teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget. And here we go, first card. Mrs. Ferguson.
I think it is the most important. I think small class sizes, teachers, what was the other part of it? I'm sorry.
Teachers, class size, and curriculum.
And curriculum. Our students need as much individual attention as they can get. Again, we have a district that has kids top to bottom in learning, in their learning styles. We need smaller classes. We need to make sure that our teachers have what they need to get the most success out of each and every one of our students for them to carry on then into the world. And our curriculum needs to be done in a way, in a curriculum that our teachers get behind. When they get behind it, you know, it's off, and limits are enormous.
Thank you very much. And by the way, I'm going to reread the question between each candidate because they don't have it printed in front of them. So the question is, how important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? Our next contestant is Mr. Lindsay.
Class size, curriculum, budget, I kind of think it almost needs to go backwards. Our budget kind of dictates the amount of teachers or how we can spread them out and adjust for that class size. I would love, 12 to 15 kids in a classroom. If it's not within the budget, then that's where we get creative. Ms. Ferguson touched on it earlier, thinking into the future. We have to see which classes and what kind of students we have coming up and kind of anticipate those classes. And that's what, we look to our administrators to kind of look not at next year, but at the next couple years, and then go, what are our needs, and kind of going towards that. We're kind of seeing that this year with resignations and new hires. And, we as a board just hope that the decisions that they make provide those proper classroom sizes, the proper teachers, and again, it all kind of fits within the budget. So, because that's where our restraint lies, is not in the curriculum and not in the teacher, but in the flexibility that we have to give them the best.
Thank you very much. Once again, the question is, how important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? Mrs. Smith.
I think all 3 of those go hand in hand, and they're extremely important. But like Mr. Lindsay said, there is a budget that we all have to adhere to. So I feel like using our resources the best that we can to be able to have the best class size, as small as we can for our students, because they are our top priority. That needs to be our top goal as a school board to reach that. And I think for curriculum, honestly, our teachers are the ones that have to teach that curriculum. And choosing the curriculum needs to have a lot of the teachers involved in it, because if they believe in the curriculum and they can look at that curriculum as a state certified and they can work with it to teach students who might be struggling or students that need to be challenged, as long as they believe in it and they understand it and they approve of it, then they're going to do an even better job in that classroom to meet our kids' needs, whether our classroom can't be 15, but it can only be 20, it has to be 22 because of a budget. That curriculum really matters, but it has to be a choosing, I believe, by the teachers for the most part.
Thank you very much. How important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? Mrs. Reiki.
Thank you. Obviously, they're all important, and again, they go all together, teachers, class size, and curriculum. Again, we need to adhere within our finances. We do the best we can. I think that offering as many advanced placement classes that we offer is important also, and that's part of the curriculum. But again, if class sizes have to get a little larger because we don't have the finances to keep as many teachers, it all goes within the budget. But they all are very important to me, and they go together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? Mr. Simcoe. Hey, do me a favor and restart the time and push that button up so that the microphone's on.
Hello? Okay. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
Excellent.
All right. Yeah, so, I mean, they're all very important. Class size is important because we need that individual attention. And we'd like that to be, the class size to be as small as possible, but sometimes that's just not reasonable. We don't have an unlimited budget. We have our taxes are declining and things of that nature. While we'd like that to be, like I said, class size as small as possible, I think the focus should be on curriculum and teachers, because the competitive nature of today's college environment, work environment, we have to be preparing these kids for life outside of the classroom and once they move on. And I think that if we fall short on curriculum and the right teachers to implement that curriculum, we're putting our kids at a disadvantage. One-on-one attention is very, very important. And it's something, that we should seek to do every chance that we get. But like I said, I think our focus should be on preparing well-rounded individuals for the real world that can be successful and contribute to their community.
Thank you very much. How important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. It's in the name, Sharpsville Area School District. It's not hard. We're about teaching our kids. And to teach them, you need teachers. And to teach them, you need something to teach them. So the question is a great question, but I don't think there's anybody in this building or online that would take the time to watch this that would say that those aren't the three most important things happening here. Sharpsville Area School District, I'm at a loss. I also, having said that, believe in a whole approach to education, in that not everybody learns from a book, not everybody learns the same way, not everybody learns at the same speed, not everybody learns. My son, for instance, is doing very well remotely, whereas in the classroom he didn't do so well. So I have a personal experience with an overcrowded classroom problem for my kid. And, we can dream. We can do the best we can do for our kids.
Thank you. How important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? Mr. Barnes.
Well, I believe those four things are probably four peas in a pod, if you will. They coexist each and every day in our district. The teachers, I know for a fact, do an amazing job with the resources that they're given, which of course is driven by the budget. I would say I think the curriculum actually interacts very well with the budget, and we actually look at the curriculum before we begin to set the budget or finalize the budget for the coming year. Mr. Vinoy has laid out a vision for what he would like to see the curriculum be, with an eye towards preparing students well for the modern world that they'll be joining soon. And I think that we task the administrators, his administrative team, then with creating classes that will meet his vision and stay within our budget. So I know that teachers outside our district are sometimes in awe of our staff, what they do with the resources we give them, and we wish we could give them more. But I think they do all coexist.
Thank you very much. How important are teachers, class size, and curriculum when addressing the budget? Mr. Angermeyer.
So I would agree with some of the other fellow candidates here that teachers, class size, and curriculum are obviously related. And to Mr. Barnes' sentiment, I feel that the vision should be the focus whenever you're relating these items. So if the goal is to give the kids the best quality education with the best quality of equipment and staff that we have, obviously every aspect of that needs to be reviewed whenever looking at the budget. And really just keeping that vision in your mind the entire time as you're reviewing the budget and thinking about where cuts need to be made versus where cuts don't need to be made. I mean, we need to really focus that what's at stake at the end of this, and that's just the quality of the children's education and the resources that we have to give them that education. So obviously they're equally important and a complex problem to solve.
Thank you very much. So we went through one round of questions. We have two more. And what I'm going to do right now is, do we have a volunteer from the audience that would like to shuffle some cards? Any volunteers? Okay, come on up and shuffle some cards. Okay, so we have the cards now shuffled up. And our second question, where will we be in 4 years? So a little background, school directors do serve an elected 4-year term of office. They could run for endless reelection. So the question is, where will we be in 4 years? And I think the intent here is, at the end of your term, if elected, where will the school district be? So where will we be in 4 years? And let's take our first card. Mrs. Smith.
This is a great question. I truly believe my vision for 4 years, if this was a normal circumstance, would be completely different. But I do believe, coming off of COVID pandemic, I believe the first year, I think our kids and our staff just need normalcy, not change, not cuts, not things. They should need it to be as normal as possible for them. I think our kids have been through a lot more than we realize with everything that's changed in their life over a year. But I would hope that over time, I'd like to see the budget slowly improve. I would like to see us have goals set for 4, 8, and 10 years where we can look out and say, these are the programs we have at Sharpsville that are strong. How can we make them stronger? We have great programs. We don't need to keep adding and dumping and taking away from our kids. What we have now, we just need to strengthen over the next few years. And that's what I would honestly like to see.
Thank you very much. So the question is, where will we be in 4 years? Mr. Garcia.
Well, I don't know. I'd like to make these great promises of how we can change the world and make everything so much better and do so much so fast. All I know is that I'd like to spend the next 4 years trying to get Sharpsville School District to a better place, to a place where there's mutual respect at all levels of education, from the board to the cleaning staff to the maintenance to the teachers, the leadership, everybody. Just get back to a place of respect and teach our kids that. To me, that would be a win.
Thank you very much. So the question is, where will we be in 4 years? Mr. Barnes.
think first and foremost, technology will look very different than it does today, and that's not to say that today looks bad. We were light years ahead of some districts around us and in our state back in March of 2020, when the COVID scare really hit home. But I think it'll look different. I think it'll look better. I think our teachers will use technology in ways that they have never considered before, quite honestly. And our job is to give them those tools and enable them to do that. And from a budgetary standpoint, I think things will be as lean 4 years from now as they are today. I don't foresee, at least at this point, any major industries moving in to our district, which would give us a windfall in taxes and revenue. And I think our students will be as successful today in 4 years as they are today, I think, and they'll be even better prepared through STEAM education than they even are today.
Thank you very much. So the question is, where will we be in 4 years? Mr. Angermeyer.
So in 4 years, I think obviously we'll be back here in Sharpsville with some new faces up here, some not. But I think that we'll be back in school, primarily, hopefully back in school in person. But I think that to Ron's point, the technology will continue to change, and I think it's going to change education forever. I think remote learning is always going to have a place, and we just need to, in the next 4 years, figure out how we use that to our advantage from either a resources standpoint or from a technology stack that's available to you. You've obviously had to learn a lot as educators, and we'll continue to leverage those skills over the next 4 years. And ideally, in 4 years, we're also going to be that much further along towards making the school be successful with the vision at hand. So just continuous improvement, that's all.
Thank you very much. So the question is, where will we be in 4 years? Mrs. Ferguson.
I believe Mr. Garcia actually hit on a wonderful point when he talked about respect. I believe that we have wonderful administrators. Let them run their buildings. This is what they went to school for. This is what they do, and they do it very well. As far as I know, there is nobody on the board that is an educator. Right now, we have one candidate that has an education background. Let your educators do their job and keep your nose out of it. Your job is to help them with the budget. Your job is to kind of point them in a direction, but what they want, your job is to stand behind them and help them achieve those things. They have the ideas, they have the education, they can see 10 years down the road. And we need to start talking to each other a little differently. We need to be respectful of our teachers. We need to be respectful of all of our staff and administrators, whether you agree with them or not.
Thank you very much. The question is, where will we be in 4 years? Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you. Well, I think the school district's going to be right here in 4 years. I don't think it's moving, so I'll go with that one. And then I think you have to look to the past to kind of look to the future. I am beyond thankful we pushed for that one-to-one with the Chromebooks when we did. As Ron touched on, that's why we were prepared when COVID came. Where will we be in 4 years? Hopefully past COVID and to whatever the new normal will be. And just to touch on something else that was said up here earlier, always have to respect your educators and that look that they have forward. But always fight for what you think is right, even if everybody doesn't agree. They're your children, and if I did that, I don't think my kids would be at where they're at now. So that's where I see us going, and just be true to yourself and let them take care of the rest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Where will we be in 4 years? Mr. Simcoe.
Yeah, so what's on the horizon for maybe not even 4 years down the road, maybe longer, maybe shorter term, is things are going to be a lot more competitive. Technologically, also we have things, we have charter schools popping up. There's, all kind of buzzwords like school choice being thrown around. And where we're going to have to position ourselves is to be a competitive school district. And what I mean by competitive is become a destination school district where people want desperately for their kids to come through these halls. We have to make ourselves stand above other school districts. If people have a choice, we want that choice to be here. We say we have a tax shortfall, so we need to lure in, families that can help spur income taxes and help us be able to contribute to technology to help us be competitive once kids get outside of these doors. But the bottom line is, if COVID and technology have taught us anything, that the market for schools and infrastructure is not going to get any less competitive anytime soon.
Thank you very much. The question is, where will we be in 4 years? Mrs. Reiki.
Thank you. What I would like to see, and what the most important thing for me to see in the next year, is that these kids all get back in school. They need to be in school. They need to come to school every day. We are facing a challenge with students who are not coming to school every day. These kids need to be in school socially and academically. I think that's important for the next year. Let's try to get these kids back in school. Again, I'm going to talk pretty much about what Mr. Simcoe said. That's what I have in my notes. Enrollment, and hopefully, I don't have a crystal ball, but in 4 years, I would like to see our enrollment increase. We've declined 21% in the last 10 years. So we need to get our enrollment up, and I think the way to do that is to promote the district outside of the bounds of Sharpsville. I think I'm out of time. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we are now on to the third question, and I want to congratulate Mr. Angermeyer, who's now going to shuffle the cards, sir. One thing, after you teach for a number of years, you come up with a lot of tricks to get the kids involved. So this is one of them. So our third question, it's kind of long, and once again, I'll reread it before each candidate has an opportunity to speak. I'm going to put on these glasses here. So there is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? So I'll read it again. There is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? And here we go, first card. Mr. Barnes.
Well, the one way we know, those of us on the board know we can't do that is through continued high taxation. We certainly feel for the residents in the district, and of course we all here are taxpayers as well. So I don't think the way to change revenue necessarily is to simply tax your way out of it. I think there's other ways to do it. I think there are opportunities in some of our recurring costs and ways to reduce that, which will narrow that gap between revenue and spending. I think that's our next largest opportunity, is to do it that way.
Thank you. So the question is, there is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? Mr. Angermeyer.
So yeah, that's a difficult question. I would agree with Mr. Barnes, though, that you can't just continually tax your way out of revenue challenges. I would encourage us all to get creative, to see what other revenue channels there are out there, and whether it's, a team of grant writers trying to get any grant possibility in the United States to this district, or other technology. Obviously, as technology improves, technology costs go down. Let's reevaluate our current technology stack in the district. Is there any room to go to a lower cost alternative that maybe an up-and-coming technology, but still providing necessary, required tools that the district may need. But I think what really is just being creative and coming together as a community to just not rely on 8, 9 people to fix the revenue problem. There's a lot of smart people that have great ideas, so let's just listen to them.
Thank you very much. The question is, there is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? Mrs. Ferguson.
As Mr. Engermeyer said, I believe grants is one way. Revenue is very difficult, obviously, to come by in a small town. But working maybe a little more closely with the local community, Sharpsville, South Pymatuming, Clark, and see what might be available if we pull all of our resources together. I believe that Sharpsville does quite a few things exceptionally, and of course, like anything else, you do some things that aren't very exceptional. And you may have to look at cutting some of those things that we don't do so well. If you can't upkeep something, maybe that's an opportunity to look and say, this just no longer works for our district. And there's ways to do that where 9 people don't have to do it, that the parents and the students, there's a way to do it that they'll tell you what's really important to them and what isn't.
Thank you very much. The question is, there is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? Mr. Lindsay.
Thanks. With revenue, Ron mentioned about taxing is not going to work. Honestly, as big as the elephant is an elephant that's not really moving. I believe we spend roughly 74% of our budget on salary and benefits for our staff. That's contract-based, that's not going to change. So we have a very small amount of money with which to go back and forth with. Last year, when I go to my notes, we budgeted a little over 18 million. We actually spent in the 17s, so we actually did about $600,000, in the right way. And that just took teamwork and creativity. Our leadership for our 9 members, they're doing a great job, and we just need them to continue to do that. And that's really where I just see us. Thanks.
Thank you. The question is, there is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? Mr. Simcoe.
So while I couldn't agree more with not being able to tax your way to prosperity, I believe just taking a hard no stance against raising taxes is unacceptable. Listen, nobody hates more taxes more than me. What we need to do, if we don't want to raise taxes, is we need to be more fiscally responsible. This might be an even bigger elephant in the room, and this is an outsider's perspective, but the situation that we did with basketball coaches this year, and we spent money the way that we did, and maybe weren't looking at the future, that's not fiscal responsibility. That's an issue. If you don't want to raise taxes, then you have to be responsible. You can't spend money frivolously. You have to make hard decisions. You have to have hard conversations. But at the end of the day, if you increase taxes and it's going to benefit the kids, that's something you might have to look at if you have a shortfall the way that I believe it to be these days. Like I said, the key is to be responsible first of all. Fiscal responsibility is something that I think is absent, and we've got to get back to that.
Thank you very much. So the question reads, there is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? Mrs. Smith.
So if you do look at our budget, and the current school board members will have a lot more information on this or that on this topic, but it's mostly our taxes, which affects our community. There's some government and funding and grants. And, to fix that problem, it's either A, you raise taxes. We don't want to do job cuts and affect our teachers because that's the breath of this school. And the other one would be programs. Well, that's our students. So, in a complete budget crisis, we have an amazing group of parents. I have some friends who live in this district who fought hard for 2 years, and there's grant money that pays for our kids, if you apply, for all their AP classes, PIC classes, and Penn State classes. And that's what we need, is coming together as a group, figuring out there are so many grants out there. It's unbelievable. And that's what we need to do. We need to come together as a community and work together to solve this problem.
Thank you very much. There is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? Mr. Garcia.
Well, I think I've been talking about this for a couple of years that, Mr. Angermeyer brought it up first, that grants. Now, I know we have people on staff that handle the money, and I know Mr. Vinoy, he works harder than anybody I know. He is here now. How many jobs can he do? So I would want to know, maybe it's possible to hire somebody that their full-time job is to do nothing but find grants, find money for Sharpsville schools. If you could pay somebody $40,000 to find us $20 million, I'd be willing to make that pay. And then, as far as the community and the taxes, yeah, there's a reason there's 9 people here. Everybody has different ideas on how to be more fiscally responsible with the school's money. So it's a matter of whether you want to vote for somebody new, vote for somebody old, vote for whatever ideas you think are going to be best for Sharpsville.
Thank you very much. The question is, there is an elephant in the room, and it is revenue. Any thoughts on how to handle the growing disparity between district income and spending? Mrs. Reiki.
Thank you. You're right, it's an elephant in the room. If anyone that knows me knows that I don't like to raise taxes. Taxes are progressive. It's 1 mil this year, but then if you raise 2 mils next year, then it's 3 mils. And it never goes down. Your taxes just never go down. I think that there are other ideas. I do believe that our staff has done a phenomenal job of getting grants. They have applied for grants. They've gotten quite a few grants. I'm grateful for that. I think part of it now needs to be with our legislators. We have a local representative who serves on the education committee. I have him on speed dial. I talk to him all the time. I think you need to talk to your legislators. Email the governor. Tell him that we need more. Maybe your state taxes will go up. I don't know. But tell him that we need more funding from the state. That's just one idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we conclude the vast majority of tonight's program. Just a few words, and those include the fact that hopefully all of you out there are not only registered to vote, but actually do vote. We have vote by mail here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You can request a ballot and vote at home, or you can vote in person at the polls on Tuesday, May 18th. Obviously, a lot of people over the history of our republic fought and died for the rights and freedoms that we have, and hopefully all of you get out there and vote. It's not necessarily an easy decision sometimes, but you do need to not only get out there yourself, but encourage others to do the same. It's important. I've often said to students over the years that, in effect, local elections matter most. Regardless of who's president of the United States, they're not plowing the streets, they're not operating the schools, they're not cutting grass at the ball field or anything like that. It's local elections that really matter the most, and hopefully everyone gets out there. With that being said, I want to personally thank a number of people. This has been an interesting year, obviously. It's been my 24th year in the classroom, and it's kind of been exciting the whole time. Fortunately, we've been almost always in-person live instruction in classrooms with kids. It's a fantastic opportunity. Unlike some schools around, we've maintained an in-person program all year long. It's been a little difficult at times. We had a few closures due to COVID, but overall it's worked well. We've also run a distance learning program for students who are at home, and that's a challenge. That is clearly a challenge. There are a number of people, however, tonight that we definitely need to thank. First of all, Mrs. Skibo, who's our new local association president down front. I'm going to run through these in no particular order. Emily Whipple, Jamie Moffitt, Marissa Dutton, Nancy Dixon, Aaron Labiento, Jordan Mastrangelo, Jeff Sposito, Matt Irwin, Kaylee Reif, and Renee Schlegel. All of those folks and others lent a hand tonight. A special thank you, however, goes out to Aaron Meredith, our district technology staff. He's operating our live stream, and fantastic stuff. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Feel free to talk to any of the candidates at the conclusion of tonight's event. Give them a round of applause. And we are concluded. Thank you very much for coming out tonight, folks.